Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining on our second podcast with Esoteric Podcast. This is your host, John Yah, and we will be discussing this week about summer cleansing and food combination. I'm sorry we had to switch up from the women fertility. We want to have some women doctors that's going to be on board with us so we can talk about that issue, but definitely we will be bringing it up again. So the conversation today is about summer cleansing and food combination. Well, why summer cleansing? And what's the difference between cleansing and detox? We're going to get into that discussion, and food combinations, which is very important because it deals with the absorption of your food and how you get all the nutrients out of it. You know, this is a science behind it. So we're bringing this information to you so that you're not going to hear this from any allopathic doctor. You're not going to hear this information that deals with your energy flow. We're also going to be talking about the summer. We're also going to be talking about the sun and how the sun pays attention or plays a role in your digestive system. We're going to be talking again about the different foods that go together and foods that don't go together. Listen, if you are watching this on Facebook, you might not be able to comment because unfortunately at this moment, Facebook has restricted us from doing this live. So I have some people that will be posting this, and hopefully by next week, we'll be back again. The revolution just won't be televised, right? They're gonna always try to find a way to block the situation. And this is why probably a lot of people are moving towards YouTube and moving away from Facebook because of their restriction policies. I don't know why, but we're not going to worry about that. So what I want to do is first thank those who are involved in helping us make this happen. First, Attorney Carl Price with Conscience Fever and Ice Entertainment Radio, Joe Tapper with the Tipping Point Morning Show, where he's the host and I truly am the co-host. Also, Frank Stoner with Health Daddy Wow, very, very good supporter of this show and what we're doing. Also, Carrie Muhammad with Ink Readable, and Phyllis Myers, Sayatia, with Body Energy Work. So we're getting ready to go right in. And again, I'm going to bring in Dr. Akmal, and we're going to discuss about the foods that we're eating for this summer and how to switch up. What does it mean from the spring to the summer and how we go into the fall? So right now we're going to this heat, this energy. And so we want to be able to give you the information to bring about your energy and your liveliness, specifically in being able to digest your food and pull all the nutrients out of it. Okay, so let's bring in my friend, my teacher, Dr. Akmal. Brother, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm as great as God allow me to be at this moment that I'm sitting here talking to you and the people. I would like to say to the audience, good evening and thank you for showing up. But I would like to really start this off by excuse me, by taking a moment of silence here, because, you know, we just celebrated and not really celebrated, but we just dealt with the fact of 100 years of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where, you know, the Europeans bombed a whole city of Africans born in America who were thriving because of the factor of their racist feelings and I would say misunderstandings of their self, okay, and not actually dealing with us in the manner that they should have. And so they, you know, they killed over 300 people in that disaster. So let's just say take a couple of breaths, a few minutes here, just to give our tribute to them because of the fact that, you know, some of our family members may have been part of that, or that lived there or grew up there, or that kind of thing. And so let's, you know, listen, anytime it's you, it affects me.
That's right.
So let's just take a minute here and let's okay. Excuse me. So, you know, we have to talk about how we exist. We have to understand that the earth moves on a circadian rhythm. And that rhythm dictates how we function and how we don't function. That rotation of the earth is what is dealing with the circadian rhythm. That circadian rhythm turns it from day to night, from Sunday to Sunday, from month to month, from season to season. As it does that, it also plays that element within the compounds of our body and with our organ system. You said something earlier about, you know, the difference between detoxing and cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great difference that most people don't realize. For instance, we're in spring right now. We're actually at the at the end of spring. But spring, and let me go back and then come back to this. So within the circadian rhythm, our organs function to that rhythm. And to that rhythm, what happens is this: each 2 hours, for instance, right now, we just went into the kidney peak season, which will last for 2 hours. Then the bladder for 2 hours. Then after the bladder, it's the gallbladder for 2 hours. And the liver for 2 hours. Okay. And so all the way around the clock, every 2 hours, a set of organs are at their peak. What does that mean? This is the time to influence them. As we look at the seasons in the same manner. Like I said, this is spring, or the end of spring. Spring was about the liver and the gallbladder. Those were the peak organs at that time. During winter, it was the kidneys and the bladder. As we move to summer, it's the heart, the small intestines, the sand jiao, which are the 3 burning spaces, the pelvis, the abdomen, and the chest cavities. And the pericardium. The pericardium is the energy that surrounds the heart, that protects it. So each season, we go into a different set of organs.
Okay.
In the fall, it's the lungs, the large intestines. However, during the last part of each season is the spleen and the stomach and the pancreas, more so the spleen and the stomach. Their involvement is more in digestion and making sure that the body gets what it needs from water and solids. Okay, and I'll get back to that in a minute. So there are two seasons that are seasons for cleansing or nourishing and fortifying, which are the summer and the winter. There are two seasons for detoxification and really cleansing the body. Those are the seasons of spring because of the liver. The liver does a process. One of its over 500 different processes is called cytochrome P450. It's also known as CY450. And so because of that, what happens? What happens now is that during the spring, excuse me a minute here whilst I turn that off. During the spring is the best time to detoxify the body because of the factor of the cytochrome P450. During the summer, you would cleanse the body. Now, what's the difference between detoxing and cleansing?
Right. That's my next question.
Think about it this way. So you clean up your house and you sweep the floor and you wash the floor. You just cleaned it. But now, to detoxify your house, not only do you wash the floor and sweep it, you wash the walls, the curtains, you change the bed linen. So you moving around the house, taking care of everything that needs to be dealt with in terms of the ability for you to be in a house that has a different energy and that is not only cleansed, but it's detox. So now you smell the bleach, you smell the other cleansings, products that you use in order for you to maintain the factor that you've really cleaned your house. Okay. The interesting thing is that our ancestors, or even if we still have grandparents that were born in the early 1900s, they knew how the body functioned. And they weren't doctors, but they knew, because if you're between, I would say maybe 48 and older, you would understand that in the springtime, they brought you castor oil. Nasty, some nasty stuff. You get castor oil, some sugar on a spoon, and an orange. In the fall, you would get the same thing, but then you would get some stuff like Father John's and some other nasty stuff, because they understood those were the cleansing processes.
So are the cleansing, like for instance, springtime, when you're cleansing yourself in spring, you're removing all the stuff that you had in the winter?
Absolutely.
And so now you're now preparing yourself for what you're ready to put in for the summer.
Well, you're not just cleansing what you dealt with in the winter, you're cleansing what you dealt with from the following summer to that spring. Okay. When we start talking about detoxing cytochrome P450, what it does is it cleans out food byproducts, waste byproducts, drugs, okay, pharmaceutical, recreation, alcohol, environmental toxins, okay, emotionally toxins. So cytochrome P50 is that basic detoxification, okay, and so once a year that happens. So what happens in the summertime is that enriched detox blood now circulates because of the heart During the summer is the heart season. The heart circulates that nourishing blood, so it nourishes the body. So that in the fall, what happens is that the lungs now oxygenate the blood, which now pulls more toxins out of the blood. Anything that's coming from the summer. See, when we start to eat summer foods should be cool. We shouldn't be eating a whole lot of hot foods per se, you know, and that would mean like there are certain grains that we would eat and there's certain grains that we wouldn't eat because of the factor of their temperament. What people have to understand is the factor that food has an energetical temperament, and that's one of the things I teach when I teach food combining. Is that there's an energetical energy in that food that corresponds to a body organ. And the body organ that it corresponds to, it's either going to help it function well or it's going to cause an issue. You know, I mean, just, you know, people should think about the fact that you go into the restaurant or you fix some food and you started eating it. And then after you eat it, you start going, well, what that's telling you is that's telling you that your body doesn't understand what you just put in it. See, you got to understand the other factor is the factor that you are a chemist. We all are. And the interesting thing is that we all work to see how we can get this Ph.D. in chemistry as our elbow bends and our mouth flies open. Mm-hmm. As we put in foods that we think are combining properly and working for us. Matter of fact, some of the foods that we eat are poisonous to the system that we think are doing us goodness. Okay. And if you have certain conditions, there are certain foods that you shouldn't be eating. For instance, someone who has hypothyroidism, well, they shouldn't be eating cruciferous vegetables. That's like cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, okay, kale. You know, those foods they shouldn't eat because there's an acid in it called gorgogenic acid, which blocks thyroxine. See, so we have to understand that the chemistry of the foods that we eat have to be articulated by our body. Okay. And it has to be articulated by our body within the season that we're eating it. We should not eat foods that's more than 100 miles away from where we live because of the temperament of the food.
So how do people handle that? Those who live in the inner city and they're getting their food from the grocery stores that's shipped in.
Mm-hmm. So what has to happen in that case is that first off, you got to understand food combining. You got to understand foods within that season. See, because most of the people, if we took a survey right now of the people who are watching this podcast, if we did that, we would find that most of the people are eating the same foods now that they ate last fall. Okay. So they haven't changed the foods. So now the foods have become toxic to their body, even though they think they are healthy. That's like if you're a person that's craving sweets, that says that you're suffering from malnutrition. Okay. Why? Because of the fact that the foods that you eat are not serving the body in such a way where the body now is able to extract nutrients from it to give you the energy you need. So your body knows that it needs sugar, glucose. The liver balances glucose and glycogen. And when the glucose is low, the liver then begins to bring up that glycogen and transform it into glucose so that the body functions. When it doesn't do that, when it's really low, what happens is the body say, yo, You see that cookie right there? Eat that cookie and I'm going to help you go across the room.
So sugar craving is actually like in a sense of you are eating food lacking nutrition.
No question. You're suffering from malnutrition. That's like, one of my things is that there are no fat people in the world. There are no fat people in the world. There are people who there are people who are full of waste. And they're full of waste because of the fact that the foods that they're eating are not really contributing to their body. So what's happening is that now the body isn't digesting, absorbing, assimilating the nutrients and kicking out the foods in a timely manner. See, so when you start to eat foods and in their season, and you cleanse the body, like I have a program where people go each season, they fast or they eat specific foods. What happens is that you're not detoxing all year round. You're cleansing and nourishing the body. See, you can't detox and not nourish the body. If you detox, which means you're cleaning out everything, you got to still put stuff back in there. And you got to put stuff in that's wholesome. When you fast, what happens when you fast is you stop digestion. Digestion is the most powerful system in our body. There's no other system that's any more powerful than digestion. There isn't. Why? Because digestion has to do with where we get our nutrients from, how the food that we eat interact with the cells, the blood, the body fluids, the tissues, and the organs. When you deal with the factor of how you balance the body through each season, for instance, summer is the best time to establish digestion. It's the best time. If you have hypertension, diabetes, lupus, autoimmune deficiencies, summer is the time to really address them. Because why? Because now you got fresh blood, nourishing blood, especially if you begin to eat foods properly. You can fast, okay, during that season. So that what happens now is that this fresh, new, rejuvenated blood rolls through your system, starting to move out waste that's been accumulated and providing the body with nutrients. Every 120 days, every season, your erythrocytes, red blood cells, work to rejuvenate themselves. Okay. And as they work to do that, they're looking for certain nutrients. Certain nutrients you get you get more certain nutrients during certain seasons. Vitamin D. The best time to put in vitamin D really is summer and winter. And that's because of the fact that in the summertime, your heart is able to absorb the vitamin D better because of the sun. Okay, because of the ability of the sun moving through the skin. But that only happens because of the fact that in the summertime, the lungs are more pronounced. The lungs and the large intestines have to do with your immune system, and their sensory organ is the skin. So in the summertime, it's aided because of the fact that the heart is moving the blood. Now, the small intestines is the product that is married to the heart. This is in traditional Chinese medicine. Okay. So with it being married to the heart, that means that in the summertime, the small intestines is active because that's its peak. What the hell is the small intestines got to do with anything? The small intestines, on one side is a garbage dump. On the other side is where we get our nutrients. If the small intestines is compromised, you're not getting no nutrients.
Well, tell me this. Okay, for me, in the summertime, I gain weight. I'm able to maintain my muscle mass. Where in the wintertime, it's just the opposite, where some people gain weight in the winter and lose weight in the summer. Well, I'm just the opposite. And I noticed that in the summertime, my food digests better. It digests more cleaner.
And it should. And you're right. In the wintertime, the digestive tract slows down. Okay. So that's why in the wintertime, we should be eating certain grains. The temperament of the kidneys, which rule the winter, is coldness. So during the winter, we shouldn't be eating salads.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. And we should, if we eat them, we shouldn't be eating them in abundance because they're cold. They bring coldness to the body.
Okay.
Okay. We should be eating soups and grains that are fibrous to keep the bowels moving, and greens, those kinds of things. In the summer, we should eat more raw food, okay, because of the fact that the digestive tract is like moving. See,
now, when you say raw food, I know some people are going to think we're talking about raw meat. So we're not talking about raw meat. That's the first thing people think. Damn, is he talking about raw meat? So you're really talking about food that is hardly cooked, if not at all.
Right. But let's go back to that meat piece. Okay. Do you know people who eat meat? I'm not. Let me put this disclaimer out there before somebody say I said something. Let me put this disclaimer out here. I'm not telling anybody to eat no raw meat.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. But when you eat meat, it should be either rare or raw because of the enzyme that's in there called cathepsin. Okay. Cathepsin is what are in carnivoric animals that break down the protein as well as it breaks down the fiber. Okay. So what we're looking at is the fact that when we eat it and we cook it, we don't have, our digestive tract isn't made in such a way where it's going to break down that raw meat in the same, that cooked meat in the same manner that it would with the raw meat. Growing up, they used to have a hammer. Well, it looked like a hammer, a two-sided hammer that had spikes in it, and that was to tenderize the meat.
Yeah, I remember that. Because
they understood our ancestors and grandparents, they were smart as hell when it came to eating. See, what our problem is the internet. That's our problem. Because every half a second, somebody's talking about eat this, eat that, eat the other, eat that. You need to know your blood type before you start eating stuff. But going back to the meat, so what happens is the fact that they would tenderize it, And once they tenderize it, then it would make it a little more palatable for your digestive tract. And then accent, I think it's called, came out. They'd sprinkle that on it, which is an enzyme. You got to understand, your body's about enzymes. Your mouth has an enzyme called amylase and tylen. That's what breaks down starch. Your stomach, protease. That's what breaks down protein. In the small intestines, which I'm going to get back to, in the small intestines, you have tylen, amylase, and lipase, which is breaking down sugar, starch, and fats, so that they'll be able to be absorbed in your body. A sandwich, I pronounced it wrong, I'm sorry. A sandwich, okay?
Yeah.
That has bread and protein to it, that's a bad combination. That's straight up waiting for mucus. Okay, and it's going to build it because the mouth's going to say, well, what is this that you just put in here? I can't handle it. I can't figure out what's protein and what's starch, so I can't handle it.
So with starch, as I've always heard, that starch will block. When you eat starch and protein together, starch blocks the protein from absorbing. That you should eat more green food if you eat protein.
Right. Okay. Proteins, starches go well with vegetables and not well with proteins. Proteins should be eaten by themselves. Yeah. And people are taking protein powders. And when you take that protein powder, you have to be careful because of the fact that powder can also clog your system. You see, depending on the type of protein that you're eating. And so what happens with that is the fact that if you eat something that has proteins, starches, and fats, then all of that will get down into the small intestines, and the small intestines will then try to figure out what the hell it is. And once the small intestines can't figure out what it is, it'll tell it to take a number and go sit in the corner. And so it may be 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years before it comes out of your body. That's why when a person goes into the bathroom and they blow up the bathroom, as they say, that means that whatever's coming out could have been in there for 2 years.
Wow.
And see, your bowels are not supposed to smell. In order to smell your bowel, what you have to do is you have to take some on a tissue and put it to your nose, and it doesn't smell offensive. When your bowels smell offensive, or when you fart and you got an aroma following you, that means that you got waste that's stuck up in your small intestines.
Okay.
When the small intestines, which is a member of the stomach, which is a basic member of digestion, when the small intestines is not able to break down the foods, chemicals, and turn them into nutrients, what it does is it turns it into waste. That waste winds up leaking into the blood, which is called the leaky gut syndrome. And that leaky gut syndrome now is what causes a lot of the disharmonies that we have. Matter of fact, Candida albicans is running rampant right now. Let me say this to you. If you look at your tongue, the topography, before I get into the topography. So the sensory organ of your heart, small intestines, pericardium, and triple heater is your tongue. Okay. So when you say whatever it is you say out your mouth, that's coming from your heart. So if you say something that's nasty to somebody, you can't say, oh, forgive me. I didn't mean to say that. Yes, you did. because that was coming from your heart.
Mm.
Okay. So the tongue's typography, if you look on the tongue's typography has all of your organs on it. That's how I use over the last year. That's what I use for diagnostics for my patients online. Okay, was looking at their tongue. If your tongue has a thick white coating on it, yeah, that means you got a lot of dampness. So you probably have candida, which basically means that your food is not digesting and absorbing. What's happening is it's storing as waste in the small intestines, and that same small intestines now is causing you to have that paste on your tongue.
Does that also throw off your pH balance?
It does. I mean, your pH balance, you know, and we'll do a whole piece on the pH balance, because of the fact that, you know, you got a lot of people who are trying to be alkaline, and that's a good thing. However, you can have alkalosis, which is not a good thing, which means that you've taken your blood's acid alkaline balance from 7.35 to 8 to 9 or 10 or something of that nature. And so instead of you having a good health, you now start to have arthritis, heart palpitations, those kinds of things, because of the fact that the acid alkaline balance is out of balance.
Okay. Wow.
The summer and the winter are the best times for that, because of the fact that those two seasons specifically deal with your immune system. Okay. And so because they deal with your immune system, for instance, as I said about the spleen, about the heart and the small intestines, and the small intestines specifically, its ability to absorb nutrients, break them down. Well, it start to get broken down in the mouth. It gets into the stomach, and the stomach deals with the protein, and then the rest of that comes down into the small intestines. And so as it comes into the small intestines, what happens is that now the small intestines determines what it is, and that's how we get our nutrients. That is where you begin to build the immune system. The kidneys rule over the bones. Okay, and last week I talked about that in regards to ED. But the kidneys ruling over the bones means that the bones have to the bone marrow deals with our stem cells and our DNA. So that means that when we eat foods, we are reinforcing our ancestral health, the constitution we got from our great grandparents. That's what we're dealing with. The stem cells is what's going to boost our immune system, especially during the spring, because the spring what happens is that the bones separate the waste. Okay, that's how they fortify the blood. They separate the waste so that in the springtime the liver can do the detoxification. So that in the summertime, the summer moves fresh blood, which is a cleansing process. So that in the fall, anything that's got caught up in there from the summer can now be cleansed out again because of the oxygenation from the lungs and the blood. So that in the wintertime, when it goes into the bones for the stem cells, it doesn't, the bone marrow doesn't have a lot to filter out. It kind of just separates it so that it can move on. You see, so the thing about that is the fact that if we understand about eating in seasons and eating the food in season, people can go to my website and they can extract a food chart for each season that talks about what foods they should be eating in that season. And, you know, a person asking about activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is good when you're food poisoned. See, we have to understand the fact that, you know, my question to people is this: why do you eat food? What is your purpose for eating food? If you're going to put on all these other things, why do you eat food? Activated charcoal is good if you're food poisoned. I mean, it's going to clean. It's going to help clean out stuff, but it's major pieces to purify the blood after you've been food poisoned.
So you're saying activated charcoal is not something you should use as your season detox in your springtime?
Well, if you use it in the springtime, that's fine, but you shouldn't be using it all the time. Okay. See, one of the pieces about us in North America here is the fact that we abuse things. We have no understanding of it. Most people don't even know how to eat. We are the only animals in God's kingdom that don't know how to eat. When you put a smoothie together and you put a vegetable in there with a fruit, you just caused a fart. You just cause your small intestines to go, what? Why? Because of the fact that you're adding chemicals. You got to understand that you're a chemist. Your body's a chemical factory. Now, we'll shine our car. We'll make sure that the car got gas in it that's supposed to be in there. If it's one of them cars that supposed to have premium gas, we're going to make sure that it got premium. Because if we put in regular, what's going to happen is we're going to get it to knock. You need to understand what your body needs. You need to understand your blood type. Because your blood is what rules your body. Nothing else does. Your digestive tract is the most powerful element, system in the body. And your blood rules the body. Your blood and chi, as we call it, which is energy. That's why we count calories.
Let's talk about that piece. Go ahead for a second.
We the only animals in God's kingdom that count calories. Why? I mean, you don't see a gorilla sitting there saying, well, how many calories is this before I eat it? But you see that we count calories. We count calories because we don't understand how to eat.
Right. Wow.
And we don't understand how to use food as medicine. Yeah. That's like watermelon. Watermelon shouldn't be eaten in the eastern part of the country. Watermelon shouldn't be eaten until midsummer. If you eat watermelon before midsummer, then you need to eat it because of the fact that you're using it for medicine. Okay. You're using it to overcome a heat disease, like fever. Okay, psoriasis. You use it for hypertension. So you'd boil the seeds and drink the water. Or you eat the rind, you see. But outside of that, you should not be eating watermelon until mid to late summer. You had a question. You were about to say something?
Yeah, about the digestion. You mentioned about putting fruits and vegetables in a smoothie. Is that because the stomach don't digest those the same? A fruit is different, of course, into the stomach that a vegetable would be. And that will cause a lot of times when you put a food combination together, I noticed the one thing I would notice that people will have is cramps or stomach aches, because it seems like the stomach doesn't know what I got here. I got to deal with this, which is sulfur. I can digest this faster, but I got to also deal with this a little bit harder. Is that the reason why? That's why it seems so important not to put fruits and vegetables together, even in a smoothie or on a salad. Some people put strawberries on a salad.
It is because they don't go together. The old folks used to say, you shouldn't mix apples and oranges. And that's because of the different chemicals and how the chemicals influence each other and how the chemicals influence the body. See, when you mix all of that together, your body has to figure out what kind of chemistry that is. So not only are you having cramps in your abdomen, which is your small intestines, but the phenols and the antioxidants that you need. That's like if you do a smoothie with berries, put all berries in there because you're looking to get the antioxidants. You're looking to get the phenols, okay, and other nutrients, minerals, and vitamins that you get from just those. You know, you shouldn't be eating melons together. You shouldn't be eating melons unless you eat them together. So you shouldn't eat melons with strawberries or other kind of fruit because of the fact that, first off, in food combining, and let me say this, food combining been around since the 1800s. Okay, that ain't no thing that just happened 50 years ago. When you mix those together, what happens is that the body will displace the nutrients and you won't get them. And so during that time, what happens is that now the small intestines is starting to get gas. And methane is building up in your small intestines. And so that methane now is causing you to feel bloated. If you do greens, do all greens. Okay. You know, you got to understand the thing that food, just like us humans, have families. And when you eat a food outside of that family with another food, it's where the body has to figure out, is the chemistry right? That's why when you go to get blood at the blood bank, they check your blood to see this type and where it's going to go. Where will it go? Where will it fit in? And the same thing with food. See, our pieces is the fact that we've gotten corrupted about how to eat. Growing up in the 50s, and the 60s, we only ate local food. We didn't eat food that was every place else. Right. And there's a piece that talks about the history of our ancestors who were more healthy on the farm. When they moved to the cities, that's when they started really getting sick. Because they were eating foods that were in season. Okay? They were cultivating the foods.
Right.
So with that happening, what happens? What happens is that now, when they came to the city, and especially when we were able to eat the same foods that the Europeans ate, here come the cancer. Here come more arthritis, diabetes. See, because our ancestors, even though they had, a matter of fact, the Egyptians had diabetes. Okay. They understood what to do for it and what to eat. They weren't trying to manage stuff. They were actually healing the body because they understood it. So, you know, I mean, when we start looking at that, we have to look at the fact of the quality, the quantity, and the season of which the food is eaten. When we start to talk about vitamin D and melanin,
and we're gonna do a piece on that next week, by the way.
We're gonna really do a piece on that next week. But when you start talking about cruciferol, what you're talking about is the fact of how does it get into your system. In the summertime, as I said, is one of the best times. In the wintertime, because of the factor that your kidneys rule over the bones, so it absorbs more of the vitamin D. Vitamin D has to do with how calcium gets into the body. Now, when you start talking about vitamin D, you got to talk about magnesium. You got to talk about calcium. You got to talk about vitamin C, boron. Okay. Magnesium. You got to talk about all of those because all of those work together synergistically. See, we have to understand that micronutrients, which are minerals and vitamins, work together, not separately. So when you take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D, that could cause some issues.
Now, so in the summertime, do we still need to take vitamin D supplements?
You do.
Now that we got the sun.
We should. Okay. See, because if we take it in the summertime, that helps us to maintain the building in the wintertime.
Okay.
One of the pieces, I'm gonna write them a letter. They're gonna have to stop paying me for advertising. One of the pieces that I tell my patients is called Calm Plus Calcium.
Yes.
Okay. CALM plus calcium. It has vitamin D, vitamin C, magnesium, calcium, boron, and potassium in it. Get right into your system. That also helps to deal with the acid-alkaline balance. See, you got to understand that your body's made of fire and water. That's it. And so in the summertime, that fire is hot outside, so you got to cool it off and maintain the balance of the water. Coconut water. Okay. That's the best time to drink coconut water. In the summertime and in the wintertime. Because what happens is that when we eat all of these foods and when we eat them together and the small intestines or the stomach specifically is not able to extract the water from them, what happens? This is in Chinese medicine. The stomach extracts the water. The kidneys maintain the balance of the water. For instance, your right kidney is fire, your left kidney is water. Okay. Your lungs maintain the water passages, as it's called. What that means is that the water is moistening and maintaining the moistness of all of the organs. So if you smoke, for instance, that's causing heat in the body, whether you're smoking cigarettes, cigars, or marijuana. Okay, so that's impacting your lungs. So then that means that if the lungs are not able to moisten and not able to moisten the skin and not able to nourish the kidneys, then what happens is now you wind up with dehydration. So now you got too much heat. If you eat too many carbs will soak up that water. So now you got heat in your body. Okay. If you eat too many cold foods, that coldness will turn to heat, which now will cause you to have heart problems. Hypertension is one of them. You know, when we eat foods that are either hot, bad combinations, or greasy, or devitalized, that causes heat in the body. If we eat foods that are in season, like right now, we have the stone fruit is out, the plums, the peaches. Okay, the nectarines, which are hybrid. Now, I'm not going to get into that right now. But They're full of water. These are the foods you should be eating now. Okay. The fruits. Why? Because of the fact that they'll bring it to you. As we move towards summer, them berries, you're talking about water. Every food that we eat that's a vegetable or a fruit, basically, except for things like avocado, are water. So during the summer, what happens? If we eat those kinds of foods, we won't have a problem with water. We won't have a problem with heat in the body. Heat a lot of times talks about stagnation. Stagnation of blood, which we call stasis. Stagnations of chi, which is energy. Okay. Stagnation of digestion or absorption and assimilation. That's going to cause heat in your blood. Matter of fact, when it has to do with the small intestines, it can cause anywhere from hypertension to a heartache or a stroke. See, so we have to understand the fact that we have to learn how to eat foods and eat foods well. We have to learn how to each season balance the digestive tract by fasting. Now, in terms of the way that I have people do that is like, okay, so this is the summer. We're going into the summer. So in the summer, you would increase the rhythm of the summer, of the heart. You would fortify the small intestines. You would open the three burning spaces, the pelvis, the abdomen, and the chest. Because when you open them up in terms of taking herbs, what happens is that now you have a free flowing digestion. However, they're nourished by the liver. So now I would continue to work to detoxify the liver and enhance the gallbladder. Because the gallbladder has to deal with cholesterol, but it has to also deal, the liver and the gallbladder also deals with digestion.
There was a piece you did in your class that talked about the liver and anger.
Oh, my God. Look out. Don't start, and there won't be nothing up in here. Each organ, and we'll do a piece on that, but each organ has their own elements of emotions.
So is it when you're angry, it causes the liver to create friction, or is it the friction of the liver cause the anger of the person? Which comes first?
So what happens is that when the liver is out of balance, when the liver is too hot, when the liver is in a state of stagnation, it then begins to cause emotional issues. It can cause anger, depression, suppression, frustration, jealousy, hatred, and anxiety. Those are the emotions of the liver. When you walk from spring to summer with those emotions, you disrupt the ability for you to be joyful, because the emotions of the heart and the small intestines are joy and impatience. And if you're impatient, that's a heart issue.
It's a heart issue. Okay.
That's a heart issue. See, the heart has to deal with what we call shin. Shin is spirit. Okay. Where the liver has to do with ego. So If you're dealing with ego, then that means that you've eased God out. So spirit's not there. So you can't do anything but be angry and have impatience. And when there's a digestive issue, that means that you're not comprehending. So now that can turn into antagonism, because you're not comprehending what is being said or what is being done.
Here's a good question.
So does it ring true that you could carry the heat on into adulthood based upon your mother was doing while pregnancy? Absolutely. How long does it specifically take? Things can carry out. These things can carry out for a lifetime. So you have to understand that you have to balance your emotions and your organs at the same time. Because if you're able to balance the emotions, then you're able to balance the body. The Chinese say that all diseases come from the 7 evils. And with the 7 evils, what happens? What happens is that now the body just caves in and you start to having all kind of stuff going on. My praises is to the sister, what's her name? Naomi, the tennis star. I believe that's her name.
Yes.
Yeah. My praises is to her because of the fact that young sister said, whoa, stop. My mental health is here.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
You know, she said, it ain't about that money. Ain't about that fame. She took her ego out and her spirit stood in.
Yes.
And her spirit said, yo, baby, we can't do this.
Right. Yes.
It blew them Europeans' mind.
Oh, it did.
It blew them Europeans' mind. At 22 years old, this sister come out like that.
Yes.
My praises is to her. See, because the fact of that is the fact that she understands her. She don't care what other people understand about her. She understands her. That's a piece of the heart and small intestine. That's a piece of digestion. See, we have to understand that the people that we allow to come into our life, we allow them in. Okay. We allow them to either leave their baggage in our house so that it can blow up on top of us, or when they come in, we understand where to place them in their luggage.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we start looking at that, we have to look at the fact of that, how mental health functions. Summer and winter are the times to balance the mind. Winter is the foundation of spirit because of the fact that winter has to do with procreation. Summer, because summer has to deal with the spirit and it has to deal with the mind. In the wintertime, if a woman has had a lot of children or a man has been real fruitful, that can cause the kidneys not to function, which can cause generational heat. Okay. That generational heat then trickles down to where women more specifically wind up having miscarriages, fertility issues. Okay. In some cases, heavy menstrual, okay, cramps, endometriosis, okay, multiple sclerosis, because of the heat that hasn't balanced the kidneys. If you're craving salt, that's a kidney imbalance. When a woman, and us men go through it, but we go through it differently. When a woman goes through, when Minna decides to pause, because you know she be pausing on them sisters. what happens? What happens is that now the left kidney is not functioning properly. So now the right kidney is functioning over excessive. And so that's causing hot flashes and the night sweats. So if mother or grandmother had an excess of children that could have been 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. She wore out her kidneys, so she wore out all her water. So as the children are being born, they wind up more with heat. They wind up with digestive problems. Our digestive problem happens a lot of times because of the factor that either we're breastfed or we're not. If we're breastfed and after being breastfed, we move to the foods that balance us, then digestion is good. But the moment someone gives us a piece of candy, a piece of cake, or foods that are not combined properly, that destroys our digestive tract. And we never work to get it back. However, nowadays you'll see them advertising stuff on TV that's supposed to be digestive health. They're talking about yoga and probiotics. Well, the reality of that is the factor that those are the things we need. The two things, if you come in to see me, you can come in to see me for a hangnail. The two things that I would tell you to get is probiotics and digestive enzymes. The digestive enzymes are going to break down the foods in their proper places. Starch in the mouth, proteins in the stomach, fats, which are lipids, and sugars, okay, in the small intestines. So that you're going to get your minerals and your vitamins in those areas that are absorbed, so that your body will be able to sustain life. When that doesn't happen in that manner, that's when you start to find yourself having other kinds of health issues that could be just something that's just there and goes away, or it could be something that sticks around that can cause you to wind up having to take pharmaceuticals, or that winds up where you're taking mega doses of a lot of pharmaceuticals, you see. So you know, you really got to understand how to eat. That's why I put classes and courses together to teach people how to eat. You know, teach about pH balance. You know, we really need to understand the pH balance. It ain't about your body being all alkaline, because listen, your stomach, if your stomach becomes alkaline, you wind up with an ulcer, H. pylori, okay? Because it has to be an acidic environment. Part of your small intestines, the first part of your small intestines has to deal with bicarbonates. That's to get rid of the acidicness that comes out of the stomach, so that as it goes into that part of the small intestines, it then begins to become alkaline, okay? But later down by the ileum in the small intestines, it turns to acidicness again, okay? So that it functions, so that it can extract the nutrients that it needs. If you don't have enough calcium, if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach, then you're not going to get calcium to break down, nor are you going to get vitamin C in your system. And when you take B12, you can't take B12 and swallow it like a pill because of its interaction with the stomach.
Yeah.
So you have to take a sublingual, put it underneath of your tongue, or have it injected. You see, so we got to understand that the body's a chemistry factory.
Yes.
We need to be able to understand how to balance chemistry. Because if we understand how to balance chemistry, then we understand how to maintain health.
Right. That B12 piece, we need to really do a piece on that too, because that's very interesting about B12. Let me ask you go back to this digestion. Okay. So, we people today eat on time. They eat based on time. Okay. Wake up in the morning, you got so much time you got to eat before you get to work. Get a lunchtime, you got a time for lunch, hour to get your lunch in, then you got dinner. So people are not eating based on body clock.
Right.
So in other words, if I'm eating something and I'm not hungry, am I causing problems with my digestive system?
You are. Because of the fact that the body will tell you when it wants something and what it needs. Digestion in the daytime happens between 11 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, from the morning to the afternoon, because that's when the small intestines and the heart are at their peak. So when that happens, that's when you should be eating your biggest meal. Okay. And I know medical science says, well, your biggest meal should be at dinner and in the morning.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Well, breakfast, you breaking a fast. Me and Baba Dick Gregory and I had a conversation one time about that piece about breaking the fast, and we talked about the fact that people don't realize that you're breaking a fast. And when you break a fast, you don't drop eggs and ham hocks and all that kind of stuff down in there, because the body's like, whoa, I'm just waking up. What in the world are you putting in me now?
Yeah.
And then you go away belching and farting and stinking because of the factor that now you done put something in there that ain't gonna digest. When you eat breakfast should be light. And it should be something that's not heavy. Fruit, cereal, if that's what you want. Not using cow's milk.
Right.
I would suggest oat milk, maybe even rice milk. You can even use coconut water. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that you get nutrients, so that when you eat that food digests, so that it gives you that boost that you need in the morning. That means that you now don't have to go get your Red Bull, or you don't have to get you a 5 cups of coffee in order to keep from getting the nods.
Yeah.
Sitting there after you done eat all of that food.
Right.
Okay. At lunch, that's when you eat your biggest meal. At dinner, you eat a light meal. But during each one of them, I would suggest that you take digestive enzymes. Because when you take digestive enzymes, what happens now is that now digestive enzymes will begin to break that food down for you, so that you got that energy that you're looking for. You see, so that you're not eating sweets. If you're craving sweets, I'm going to give you a recipe right quick. So if you're craving sweets, take a tablespoon of steel, S-T-E-E-L, cut oats, and put it in a glass. Pour distilled water over it, filling the glass. Put a cover over top of it and set it on the counter overnight away from heat. In the morning, strain the water. If you want to drink the oats, if you want to eat the oats, you can eat the oats. But strain the water and drink the oats. The oats have B complex in it. The oats have chromium in it. Okay. And it helps with not only with the sweet cravings, but it helps with the central nervous system. Okay. So I would say do that. Control passing down. So the question that's up about passing down things from generation to generation. We heal when we begin to understand the body. When we understand what is going on with the body. When we understand what our grandparents did, what they didn't do, how we were fed, how we weren't fed. See, because a lot of us, well, I guess with the generation coming up now, you don't eat some of the foods that your parents ate, but you know, people of my generation, you know, we ate foods that our parents ate, and so if the food that we ate was the same food that gave them health issues, then what they passed down to us was their fork. And passing down that fork to us caused us to have generational health disharmonies. Not to talk about the fact that, well, I ain't get into that because that could get a little deep. But you know, we have to look at the factor that you have to understand your body. You know, you have to really understand your body, and you have to understand what you're putting in it. And as women, you can't eat some of the same things as us men eat, and us men can't eat some of the things that you eat. Some of the things that you would eat that would have an abundance of estrogen in it, men shouldn't eat those. Okay, and we shouldn't eat them in abundance. We can eat them, but we shouldn't eat them in abundance. Women
I think we did a piece on that, but it lowers your testosterone.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay. And especially estrogen.
Okay.
The phytoestrogens. It lowers our testosterone. Now, if you got prostate issues, then you want to eat things that have phytoestrogen in it, because of the fact that that's gonna overcome the excess of testosterone, which is caught on fire. So now you got fire going on in your body and not enough water. See, and so when we look at that, we have to look at the fact that as Africans born in the diaspora, we can't eat the same foods that Europeans eat. Okay. Because our body types are different.
It's a hard one to get people to understand that one, man.
Yeah, our body types are different. And anytime you eat something and you get a reaction, whether your throat starts or your abdomen, your small intestines goes into spasms, that says that you ain't supposed to eat that food. I would suggest people go and look up foods for your blood type. You know, some of you people who are vegans, you ain't supposed to be vegans. There's a whole bunch of people that started out being vegans and they're going right back to eating flesh. Now, that doesn't mean that every meal you got to eat a piece of flesh.
Right.
What that means is that when your body says, listen, I need a piece of chicken. You go eat that piece of chicken. Then the next day you go back to eating the beans and the rice and the vegetables and all of that kind of stuff. You see, I mean, I have a friend, a dear friend of mine, who she eats vegetables and fruits and all of that, and every once in a while she'll say, you know, I need a piece of lamb. And she'll go get the lamb, eat that lamb, and she may not want it for another 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Yeah. Because of the fact that her body was missing something that the lamb needed to give her just like that to keep her moving, because she wasn't getting it from the fruits and vegetables. That's like vitamin D. Vitamin D comes from animal products. That's where vitamin D comes from. It comes from animal products. So if you're a vegan, you got to figure out how to get that vitamin D in there. Same thing with vitamin B12.
Yeah, that vitamin B12 piece. Yeah.
You see? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about that vitamin B12. You don't find those sources in veggies and in vegetables and fruits.
You don't. You see, so you have to understand how to balance your chemistry. And if you take supplementation, understand that word, supplementation. What you're taking is you're supplementing your food. Okay, a lot of people say, "Nah, I ain't take no supplements." Well, that's fine. But if you're not getting the nutrients that you need from the foods that you're eating, then what happens is that you need to put in the supplementation, so that what happens is that now you get the nutrients you need. And them supplementations can be anything from phytonutrients to which phytonutrients are herbs, or micronutrients, which are minerals and vitamins, so that you get exactly what it is that you need. See, if you under 50, you still coming up on the roller coaster, you know, because I talk about the fact that, you know, if you ever been on a roller coaster, you know, that roller coaster come up like this here.
Yeah.
And when that bad boy get to the top, what happened? It get to the top, it come at the top like this here. Real slow. Click, 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 click. Boom. That's how the body goes at 50. If I had not started changing the quality of my body when I was 24, now that I'm in my 70s, I just went into my early 70s, my body would be really broke down. But I started then, and I started eating right, because, you know, I won't tell y'all the stuff that I was eating, because, you know, you I tell you that, you'd be like, oh my God.
Let me ask you this question. It's very interesting. You was talking about meat, and I definitely want to do that piece again about meat, but on medicinal purpose. Let's say, for instance, a person has a liver problem. And I've heard this in certain holistic understanding, that if you eat a piece of raw liver, it will aid or cure the liver problem that you have. And maybe particular liver problems, I'm not sure. But I've heard of that before, by taking a goat liver, eating a piece of their liver. Is there some truth to that?
Well, there's all of the organs and the glands. If you take in a piece of that, that's going to help to work to overcome what's going on with you. Now you can buy actually capsules and pills of different organs or or glands. Okay. Thymus gland, the thyroid, all of that, including the liver. You know, I mean, people who have anemia, you know, when they eat liver, the liver gives them what they need. However, in that case, you can use blackstrap molasses or black beans. You see, if you have anemia, which is a imbalance of the summer, okay. If you have anemia and you drink, or if you're pregnant, if a woman's pregnant and she's low in B12, then what happens is that she or the person can drink the soup of black beans and receive the nutrients that they need of iron. Iron is a very hard element to get into the body because it's a metal. Most metals are, including copper and zinc. But if you take in black beans or molasses, blackstrap molasses, that will increase your hemoglobin. Okay. What's it called? It's called it's in there. Chlorella is one of them. But I was thinking more of chlorophyll. If you take in liquid chlorophyll is powerful. Woo! Yeah, it's very powerful. And you're talking about cleansing, it oxygenates the blood. Okay. And it oxygenates the blood to the point where the blood now is able to move forward and do what it needs to do. But if you spill that chlorophyll on something, it ain't coming out.
Right. Yes. Right.
It ain't coming out.
No, it's not.
So whatever it is you spill it in, you either get rid of it or use it for when you're working, because it ain't coming out.
Right. So people can know about chlorophyll. It comes from green foods.
It does.
You can do juicing and just juice some green food. So it's like understanding that the blood, specifically for melanated people, your blood is kin to chlorophyll. It's like cousins. So it really helps in that area.
And see, one of the things about plants that doesn't happen to humans is the fact of the photosynthesis. That's what causes the green of the chlorophyll. And so when we take in those plants, that's why green vegetable, people who have diabetes, in my diabetes course or in my protocol for diabetes, what happens is that I work to get people to have an understanding that they need to take the chlorophyll, because the chlorophyll is going to help their body and their blood, okay, and help to bring back the balance. Again, here we're talking about the pH balance, the acid alkaline balance of the blood. So that what happens is that now the blood is able to nourish the body. You got to understand that's what the blood's job is. The blood's job is to oxygenate the blood, but it is that chlorophyll in there is to enhance the minerals and the vitamins and the amino acids and the enzymes to get the blood to work, so that the blood is able to function for you and keep you healthy. You see, that's the piece that you're talking about. And food, when we eat food, we have to understand the fact that the chemistry from the foods is what allows for the body to live. See, we don't eat foods for health. We eat foods for taste. So the foods for the spring are sour, but the foods for the summer are bitter. You see, and burnt. You see. So when you eat those kind of foods, that's like yogurt. Yeah. A lot of people eating yogurt. Well, if you're eating yogurt with sugar in it, you're defeating your purpose. Because what the yogurt does, yogurt is a probiotic. So it fights against sugar. Okay. So if you got a cup of yogurt that's got fruit in the bottom of it, there's a fight going on in that cup.
Right.
And so when you take it in, you think that it's going to work for you? Not really. When you take in yogurt, it should be bitter. Okay? That's like sorrow. If you understand, if you know sorrow builds the blood. However, if you've had kidney stones, then you can't take sorrow, because of the oxalic acid in the sorrel, will cause you to have kidney stones. If you have kidney stones, if you've had kidney stones, then you need to get some magnesium, some vitamin C. Calm Plus helps it.
For kidney stones.
For kidney stones.
Okay.
Because that means that the kidneys is not getting the magnesium. They're getting more calcium than they're getting magnesium. So when you start to look at that in that manner, what happens? What now happens is that now your body is functioning in a manner where you can get what it is you need to help break down that stone. That's like if you got gallstones, olive oil.
Olive oil, gallstones.
Okay, gallstones, olive oil. Yeah, it help them to pass. Olive oil and lemon juice.
Lemon juice. Okay. Okay. Coming down to the last couple of questions, I want to ask you. We was back to the digestion part about the mindset, about eating foods when you either have an anxiety, sad, mad, how it plays a role in your digestion based upon your mindset.
Ain't no digestion.
The food just ain't digested. You just eat.
Food ain't digesting because your mind ain't digesting. Your mind ain't sound.
Okay.
Okay. See, the liver manufactures a chemical called glutathione. If the liver's out of balance and you got them isms going on because of it, it's not balancing the manufacturing of glutathione. Glutathione is a very powerful antioxidant that moves into the small intestines. Now, it's been said that the small intestines is the second brain because the small intestines feeds the brain. And it feeds the brain. It also feeds the brain in terms of its ability to think, to get rid of free radicals, okay, to maintain the balance of the neurological system in the brain. So when we start looking at that, if you're pissed off, anxiety, any of those things, glutathione ain't going to help you in either the small intestines, which has to do with your immunity, or your brain, which has to do with your thoughts. In the summer, what happens is if there's Alzheimer's, if there's fog in the head, that's the best time to work on that. You can buy glutathione. Okay, you can go to the health food store and buy glutathione. You can also buy NAC, N-acetylcysteine. However, FDA is trying to get rid of NAC, so some places ain't gonna sell it. Matter of fact, Amazon, they stopped selling it because there's a controversy going on with FDA. FDA's thing is about you not being healthy, you being straight out.
Yes.
But glutathione works very well. And by it being an antioxidant, it's going to help to get rid of free radicals, and free radicals are what causes cancer. And the person said liquid chlorophyll reverses anemia almost instantly. Well, it does. However, it depends on the person's circumstances. See, you got to understand that everything doesn't work the same way for everybody. In some people, it takes longer. In some people, it's just like this here. But that person is absolutely right, and thank you for that. It can reverse it immediately. So can blackstrap molasses, although that's a sweetener, and black beans. Black beans is wonderful. Also, black rice works in a similar manner. You see that works to enhance the blood so that it uptakes the iron. And chlorophyll, and thank you that person. Chlorophyll, because you made me think about this. Chlorophyll, the reason that chlorophyll does that in that manner is this: chlorophyll aids the heme of the hemoglobin to uptake the iron. That's why it can be so rapid. Now, it also depends on several other things. Okay, it depends on how depleted the person's body is, how their B12 levels are, how the B vitamin levels are. Okay, if it's a woman and she's of menstruating age, what's her cycle like? Okay, so it has a lot to do with a lot of different things. But the person was right. Almost instantly, it can change the course of anemia.
Great. Okay, Doc. Now, what classes you got coming up next as we close out that you can tag in for people that may want to join your class?
Okay, so I have a food combining course that starts next Monday. Okay, and it's a 4-week course. I have a Qigong class that happens on Saturday mornings. And that class is from, I think, 9 to 10. Okay, those are the two that's happening now. And then I have the fasting program that anybody can call me or you can order that online, which works for the summer. Those are herbs that'll be for summer. So it will work for the liver because the liver nourishes the heart. It'll work for the heart, the small intestines, and it'll work for the kidneys because the kidneys control the activity of the heart. And so it was asking about heat. This is the time to really create the balance for your kidneys and your heart to reduce the heat that's in the body. One of the things that I said earlier is that what I've been doing with people is getting them to send me 4 pictures of their tongue, and I would evaluate it, and they would make an appointment, and we would see what's going on within the compounds of their body.
Okay, well, great discussion here. We covered a lot, Dr. Akmal. Wow. So I want to thank everyone who participated, and thanks for coming over to YouTube to finding us. I'm not sure about the Facebook thing, but we're going to continue to move on and continue to teach this to whoever is interested and wanting to learn about natural healing and your health on a whole different level. So basically continue, and I ask everyone to share this information, give me a thumbs up so that we can continue this conversation. Again, I appreciate everyone who came in here, and I want to thank again those who played a role in making this happen. Attorney Carl Price with Conscience Fever and Ice Entertainment Radio, with Joe Tapper with The Tipping Point. He's the host. And Frank Stoner with Health Daddy Wild here in Louisville, Kentucky, and Kari Muhammad with Inkreadable, a very good guy, and a lot of graphic stuff that he do. And of course, Phyllis Meyer with Body Energy Works here in Louisville. So Doc, next week, we're looking to do a piece on vitamin D.
Yeah.
And what the difference is vitamin D and D3. We're going to get into that. And we're also still going to come back with the women's fertility.
Oh yeah, listen. Ladies, I could do that piece myself, but I've got some sisters who are very powerful that can help you to do what it is that you need to do, along with me giving you some information so that you queens can be queens that you are and healthy. So when we bring that one to you, you'll be ready.
Yeah. so y'all look for us every Tuesday at the same time, Esoteric Podcast with John Yah, every Tuesday at 7:00. And you rock with us, and we'll continue to bring as much info as we can. Again, if anything, any questions you have for the doc, you can ask. You can also reach him at his website at heavenlyart.net, and his phone number is listed below, as you see. Okay, so we thank you, Doc, for coming on, giving us your time.
I thank y'all for having me. I thank for the people who have come to give me the blessing as they got the blessing. Be well, enjoy your life as you peacefully walk in health. Remember this: the desire to heal begins with you loving you. Be well.
That's right. All right. So take care, everyone, and see you next.